thank you for the invitation to walk with you as we journey together in the educational mission entrusted to us. Your initiative is a wonderful opportunity to discern and discuss the mission and association for that mission going forward. The months of isolation and lockdown have called for difficult adjustments on the part of all of us. I am grateful to you individually and as a group for your efforts to keep the mission vital. And it has not been easy, we know that. Zoom allows us to function and innovate in new and creative ways, but virtual gatherings, however, can be exhausting, particularly when we gather across different time zones. And of course, they cannot replace face-to-face encounters. It is true that education is more than a school, but the school as a physical space, besides being a privileged place of teaching and learning, is also a place of affective encounter, an instrument of social leveling, an integral environment favorable to the growth and expansion of the qualities of the human being. And also, the school is a source of nourishment. Even in places where there is a certain access of ease to online education, a large number of children suffer from chronic hunger, since the school they attended before the pandemic assured them of at least a little nourishment, which is not present and possible in present circumstances. Lasalle, for example, is present in Congo, Venezuela, Burkina Faso, Chad, Niger, Ethiopia, South Sudan, and Haiti, which are among the 10 countries with the highest rate of hunger in 2020. Yet, as an instrument of learning that online technology is, it cannot replace face-to-face encounter. As you can see, I've been asked to speak about the Institute's guide for the Lasallian Mission Moving Forward plan. In my remarks, I will first describe the origins of the plan. Next, I will share with you 2 follow-ups to the plan that have provided additional information on how districts continue to respond to the pandemic challenge. And finally, I will offer a personal reflection. Regarding the plan, numerous metaphors are offered to describe what the pandemic unleashed on our world. Finding ourselves in uncharted waters is one example of a metaphor we are using. Governments, businesses, and institutions were without oars as sails, a phrase St. Lasalle employed in one of his meditations to the first brothers. The intent of the phrase, without oars or sails, was not fear, not uncertainty, but a reminder to rely on divine providence to provide a way forward. His trust in divine providence enabled De La Salle to go forward in faith, even as the path remained obscure. He trusted God's promise as prophesied by the prophet Isaiah. I will lead the blind by ways that have not known. By paths unfamiliar, I will guide them. I will turn darkness into light before them and make crooked ways straight. Last May, that trust in divine providence inspired the General Council to find a way forward through the pandemic and beyond. We were also inspired by the Lasallian conviction that throughout its history, the mission has been accomplished together and by association. We discern the future not as individuals, but as a community. So as a community, we invited the visitors, their district and mission councils, and the Institute's secretariats and services to reflect together on what we needed to do to ensure the ongoing vitality of the Lasallian mission in the midst of the pandemic. A survey was conducted and disseminated to consult those on the ground, individuals and groups like yourselves, daily accomplishing the mission. The richness of the feedback resulted in the guide, the Lasallian Mission Moving Forward Plan. Based on the survey responses, the council constructed the guide and identified several broad themes to be considered by the General Council, the Institute's secretariats and services, and regional and district leadership teams. As a guide, it is simply a way to offer you some orientations for future planning, rather than attempting to set local operational goals. And the themes identified are the following: communicating the core message of the Lasallian mission in the new context, embracing the future of the educational mission, envisioning education and evangelization beyond the classroom, ensuring a strong operational and financial future, reimagining the life of the brothers, refocusing association for mission, and rethinking the organization of the institute. For each theme, we offered some objectives, the person or group who could assume responsibility for the objectives, and some desired outcomes we hope to realize. 75 outcomes were identified. Local leadership was invited to pursue those outcomes they believe pertinent for their reality. Not surprisingly, the themes are invitational to reimagine, envision a different future. However, more than reimagine or refocusing or rethinking a different future, we are asked to have the courage to embrace a future only dimly seen. Some of the desired outcomes expressed by leadership throughout the world can help us do this. They include internalizing the new Institute documents. The documents reflect a broad consensus on who Lasallians are and what we should be about in the mission. To deepen our understanding and commitment to Lasallian association. To deepen that understanding, we must grow in our knowledge of the charism and Lasallian spirituality through formation programs. To be even more intentional in networking for closer collaboration among ministries, and an even more intentional movement toward the poor, the vulnerable, and the marginalized. Approximately 5 months later, still in uncharted waters, and after the creation of that guide, we invited visitors and secretariats to share with us their efforts in moving forward with the plan. And we did this through a second, but much briefer survey in order to learn more about initiatives being implemented and to share those across the Institute. We received about 90 generous and creative responses to the challenges presented by the situation in which we live in these times. And we divided those 90 responses into 6 areas that demonstrate for Lasallians ours is a mission possible. And what are the 6 areas? First, openness to collaboration. Real-time collaboration on a planetary level has been possible thanks to creative use of technology like we're using right now. A good example, though, has been the creative will of young Lasallians who, led by the International Council of Young Lasallians, launched the Indivisa Manit movement, of which your own Keen serves as leadership. But perhaps the most visible effort of collaboration, because of the number of people involved and the effective economic response it produced, were our hashtag LaSalle COVID and hashtag LaSalle Beirut campaigns, organized by the Secretariat for Solidarity and Development in Rome. Because here, the Institute responded as what it really is, a single body, responding to the needs of others. A second area was the search for greater closeness and accompaniment at this time. An example of this, in the Youth Village, a retreat center in Quebec, Canada, we find the staff organizing workshops for young people with such titles as Knowing How to Live Together, Resilience, Perseverance, and other ways to help young people to cope with the anxiety and stress associated with the pandemic. The third area was concern for maintaining quality education for all. An example of this we received from one region is what they call the Benilde Global Campus. And it's a program that provides activities of counseling and academic support for students to help them remain ready to prepare for college and university admission. A fourth area was attention to fundamental spiritual needs and pastoral care. Our Secretariat of Association and Mission has created an international and multi-religious group addressing Lasallian spirituality. It intends to be a laboratory of ideas, a think tank, if you will, that offers formation and deepening in the living out of our own spirituality. A fifth area, the exercise of leadership and the communication task, It is true that the adoption of more advanced communication technology has allowed us greater flexibility, frequency, and effectiveness in administrative meetings and in the exercise of authority. But perhaps one of the benefits of the pandemic has brought us is the prospect of a leadership that needs to be prepared to govern and encourage in circumstances with greater levels of uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And the sixth area we identified from the reports was educational service to those most in need. In the United States, for example, one district is promoting the same values in what they are calling 4 pillars. And this is their focus: children's rights, racial justice, migrant movements, and environmental justice. And they've involved the entire district, all its ministries, and all Lasallians. Even more recently, we've received an abundance of information on what is being accomplished across the Lasallian world. And this information comes from district reports. Each year, visitors send to Rome an annual report on the state of their districts during the past year. Frequently, the General Council suggests a theme or some guide questions to help district administration in preparing the report. Obviously, in this year of COVID-19, the questions focused on how districts, their ministries, and communities were responding to the pandemic. All districts acknowledge, like yours, that the year started with unimaginable frustrations and fears. Soon, however, signs appeared that the disruption has allowed also for us to reimagine how the mission might move forward. And I'd like to spend a few minutes on your report from the lead district, from your visitor and the administrative team. And in that report, we have read that the pandemic proved to have a silver lining with the emergence of virtual communities within the lead sectors and district-wide, which was already involved in online platforms for meetings, formation sessions, academic classes, youth gatherings, prayer, liturgy, all the things that you are very familiar with because you're involved in it. LEAD also conducted research supporting a park-sponsored study on Lasallian Association for Mission. And this study, we're told, focuses on existing diversity in religion, politics, and level of economic development, while at the same time identifying features that contribute to the effective functioning of Lasallian ministries in a multi-faith or secular context, which is very much your reality in that part of the world. And regarding schools, you use the new Institute Identity Criteria document as a reference to implement online learning modalities following best practices within and outside of the Lasallian network, and prioritizing teachers and learners' mental and emotional health. And then again, you have your ongoing Cada Uno operations, which has continued to respond to other natural calamities for the remaining months of the year, and you were able to help thousands upon thousands of people. Incredible effort on your part, and thank you. I mean, the involvement of alumni and students, faculty, parents, and staff on your 13-hour online benefit show was a celebration of your Lasallian spirit, as well as an effective fundraiser. Because of the closure or suspension of schools and travel restrictions, not only in LEAD, but throughout the Institute, the brothers have had more time for community activities, personal growth plans, meditation, and prayer. Community life has been enhanced with regular attendance at prayer and meals. Also, the General Council document, Reimagining Our Life as Brothers, is being used as a reflection tool for the communities and as a reference for community dialogue and recollections. And also, like LEAD, unfortunately, in a number of our districts, there are schools and ministries that may experience and are experiencing a continued decline in enrollment. And some, in fact, have closed. But with support of stakeholders, the Institute's trying its best to keep our operations, our schools, our ministries going forward. And finally, with regards to your lead district, not has the pandemic deterred you in continuing preparations for celebrating your 10th anniversary as a district. This is truly an amazing effort on your part and an example of what many districts are trying to do including those districts for those people who are participating today, of which the Institute and I personally am very grateful for your efforts. And now let me conclude with a few personal thoughts. Thoughts, though, that may be personal, but I know are shared by all of us. The pandemic has wreaked havoc with our world, our personal lives, and our educational mission. The suffering and death caused by COVID-19 has brought to the surface many societal inequalities. It has made clear that business as usual is no longer acceptable. Business as usual was not acceptable to Jesus or John Baptist de La Salle, and it is not acceptable to Lasallians. Our charism calls us to the margins with the poor and the working classes. In the gospel, the poor are in the spotlight. Open to the promptings of the Holy Spirit, St. LaSalle recognized this truth. It moved him to action. He, the First Brothers, and we are called consistently and persistently to upset the usual way of doing it. We are called to subvert unjust socioeconomic systems that oppress people and to form young people, especially poor young people, in such a way that they commit to build a world where every person can live life to the fullest. In a post-pandemic world, what might these calls lead us? Where can we go forth in response to these calls? Pope Francis suggests you have to make for the margins to find a new future. When God wanted to regenerate creation, he chose to go to the margins, to places of sin and misery, of exclusion and suffering, of illness and solitude, because they were also places full of possibility. In 2014, the Brothers of the General Council and I, surveying the world at that time, wrote in our Circular 470 toward the year 2021, as Lasallian educators, we cannot sit idly and remain on the sidelines. There is an urgent need to find new roadmaps that encourage creativity and innovation in the pursuit of the common good. The common good we are pursuing is an inclusive and sustainable growth and development in economic, political, social, and spiritual spheres. COVID-19 has pushed all of us from the sidelines and thrust us onto the playing field. We are all in this together. Together, we are discerning potential concrete and practical actions for the Lasallian mission going forward. As an institute, the pandemic gives us the opportunity to rethink the essential questions. Are we doing our work ethically? Are we practicing the principles we preach? What is the main reason for our presence here and now? Are we able to detect the whisperings of the Holy Spirit that compel us to action? I believe that the setbacks caused by the pandemic invite us to discern collectively the direction offered by the Holy Spirit and to create new paradigms designed to close the gap between the ideals expressed in our publications and our lived reality. I believe The postponement of the international assemblies and our general chapter can be a grace-filled moment for the Institute and the Lasallian family. We have the opportunity to reflect more deeply on the new paths that the Spirit is setting before us. I believe the Spirit is impelling us to meet the unmet educational needs of those who are poor, increasing co-responsibility for the mission with empowered partners, imagining new governance structures, and most importantly, reigniting in each of our hearts an ardent zeal to be relevant and joyful ministers of God and ambassadors of Jesus Christ. Thank you for your contributions and commitment to this conviction. Together, we can make great things possible. We can become part of the miracle of transforming the lives of the children and young people entrusted to our care. Maraming salamat.